The air in the Blue Ridge Mountains has a special kind of magic. It's crisp, clean, and smells of pine and damp earth, a scent that always felt like a promise of new beginnings. Our venue, Mountain Haven, was nestled right in the heart of it all, a beautiful rustic lodge with sweeping views of the Asheville Valley. It was perfect. He was perfect. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt like my life was finally unequivocally perfect too. My name is Emily, and at 27, I was about to marry the love of my life, Nathan Brooks. My journey to this day hadn't been easy. I lost my mom to cancer when I was 16, and my dad, well, he'd checked out long before that. I'd been on my own since working my way through community college, then art school, building a life in a graphic design business from scratch. I was proud of the woman I'd become. Resilient, independent, a survivor. That survival instinct was etched into every part of my life, including my wedding dress. It was my masterpiece. For 6 months, I'd poured every spare moment into it. It wasn't just fabric and thread. It was a conversation with my mom. The lace appliques were shaped like gardenias, her favorite flower. I'd even managed to salvage a small, delicate piece of lace from her own wedding gown, sewing it into the lining right over my heart. The dress was more than just something to wear. It was my history, my tribute, my declaration that even though she wasn't there to walk me down the aisle, she was still with me. It was, in every sense of the word, priceless. I was in the bridal suite, a cozy room with a large stone fireplace and a balcony overlooking the ceremony site. My maid of honor and best friend since forever, Chloe, was fussing with the placement of a pin in my hair. "Hold still," she commanded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "This last curl is being stubborn. It clearly doesn't understand the gravity of the situation." I laughed, the sound echoing happily in the sun-drenched room. "It's just hair, Chloe." "It is not just hair," she said, her voice mock serious. "It is the final piece of the bridal puzzle. Everything has to be perfect." She finally stuck the pin in, stepped back, and a wide grin spread across her face. "Okay, now it's perfect." I looked at my reflection. The woman staring back at me was glowing, her eyes bright with a joy so profound it almost felt fragile. The dress hugged my figure in all the right places before cascading to the floor in a soft cloud of silk and tulle. It was everything I had dreamed of. That's when the door creaked open. My future mother-in-law, Lillian Brooks, stood in the doorway. She was a woman who seemed to be carved from ice, elegant and cold in a tailored steel gray dress that probably cost more than my first car. Her smile never quite reached her eyes, which were currently scanning my dress with a look of undisguised contempt. From the moment Nathan introduced us, Lillian had made her disapproval of me crystal clear. I wasn't from their world of country clubs, legacy admissions, and quiet inherited wealth. I was the scholarship kid, the girl who worked 2 jobs, the one whose hands weren't soft. To her, I wasn't a success story. I was a stain on the Brooks family legacy. Nathan had always run interference, shielding me from the worst of her snobbery. But in the weeks leading up to the wedding, her passive aggression had sharpened into a fine, cruel point. "Well, Emily," she said, her voice as smooth and cold as river stones. "I can certainly tell." Clue stiffened beside me. "It's beautiful, Lillian. Emily designed and made it herself. It's a work of art." Lillian ignored her, her eyes fixed on me. "Nathan is a Brooks. He comes from a good family, a strong family. He deserves a partner who reflects that. Someone with breeding, with a proper background." She took a step into the room, and I felt a primal sense of alarm, the kind a rabbit feels when a hawk circles overhead. This whole affair, It's a bit of a spectacle, isn't it? Trying so hard to pretend you belong. My own smile tightened. I refused to let her ruin this day. I love your son, Lillian. And he loves me. That's the only background that matters. Love. She scoffed, the word sounding ugly in her mouth. You love his name. You love his security. You see him as a meal ticket out of whatever gutter you crawled out of. Every word was a carefully aimed dart, but I'd spent years building my armor. I wasn't that 16-year-old girl anymore, lost and alone. You couldn't be more wrong, I said, my voice steady. That's when I saw it. In her hand, partially concealed by the folds of her dress, was a small silver Zippo lighter and a little flask. My blood ran cold. Lillian, what are you doing? Chloe asked, stepping forward slightly, her body tensing. Lillian's icy composure finally cracked, revealing the raging furnace of bitterness beneath. I'm doing what I should have done months ago. I am saving my son from the biggest mistake of his life. Before either of us could react, she unscrewed the cap of the flask and splashed a clear liquid onto the hem of my dress. The acrid smell of lighter fluid filled the room, a chemical stench that was a violation in this space of perfume and hairspray. My mind refused to process what was happening. It was a dream, a horrible, surreal nightmare. This couldn't be real. But then she flicked the Zippo open. The sharp click echoed in the stunned silence. A small, hungry flame danced to life. You are not worthy of my son? She hissed, her face a mask of triumphant cruelty. You are not worthy of the Brooks name. And you are certainly not worthy of wearing a white dress and pretending to be some innocent, pure bride. She bent down, and the flame touched the soaked hem of my dress. The world went into slow motion. The fabric, my beautiful, irreplaceable dress, didn't just burn, it vanished. A line of whooshing blue flame raced up the silk, turning my 6 months of love and labor into black curling ash. The smell of burning fabric and chemicals was nauseating. The heat licked at my ankles. Chloe screamed and lunged forward, but Lillian shoved her back. I was frozen, not by fear, but by a sudden absolute clarity. The shock vaporized, replaced by an ice-cold calm. This woman, this monster, was trying to destroy me, to burn away my happiness, my history, my love. She was trying to turn me back into that scared, helpless 16-year-old. She was going to fail. My phone was on the vanity beside me, propped up on a small stand. We'd set it up to live stream the ceremony for my elderly aunt in Florida and a few friends overseas who couldn't make it. The feed was already live, set to a private link for about 30 people, scheduled to go public just as the ceremony began. My hand didn't shake as I reached for it. I didn't fumble. With a few deliberate taps on the screen, I changed the privacy setting from private to public and angled the camera to capture the entire horrific scene. Lillian, face twisted in a triumphant sneer, the flames greedily consuming my dress, the smoke detector beginning to shriek its high, piercing alarm. Then I spoke, my voice not a scream or a sob, but a clear, steady announcement to the world. For those of you just joining, I said, my eyes locked on the camera lens. Welcome to my wedding day. Our first uninvited guest is the mother of the groom, Lillian Brooks, and she appears to have brought a torch. The look on Lillian's face when she heard my voice and saw the phone was something I will treasure for the rest of my life. The triumphant smirk dissolved into a slack, jawed mask of pure, unadulterated horror. She finally understood. This wasn't her private act of destruction. It was a public performance, and she was the star of the show. The live stream chat, visible on the edge of my screen, exploded. GST Casarel. Solmani call T Policy. That woman is a monster. Emily, are you okay? The shrieking of the smoke alarm was deafening now, a fitting soundtrack to the chaos. Lillian, momentarily paralyzed, dropped the lighter as if it had burned her. "Yag, what have you done?" She stammered, her voice a pathetic whisper. "Me." I asked, a humorless laugh bubbling up from my chest. I took a deliberate step away from the smoldering remains of my dress, the scorched fabric crumbling at my feet. "I haven't done anything, Lillian. I'm just documenting. You're the one putting on the show. Tell me, what's the second act?" Clue, recovering from her shock, had already grabbed the small fire extinguisher from beside the fireplace. With a roar of pure fury, she pulled the pin and blasted the base of the flames with a cloud of white powder. The fire hissed and died, leaving behind a blackened, chemical-smelling ruin where the train of my dress had been. The room was a disaster zone of smoke, powder, and the ghost of my dreams. "Turn it off!" Lillian shrieked, lunging for the phone. "Turn that thing off right now!" But before she could take 2 steps, the door to the suite burst open. 2 of my bridesmaids, Sarah and Megan, who had heard the alarm and Clue's scream, skidded to a halt, their faces a mixture of confusion and horror. "What in God's name is happening?" Sarah gasped, her eyes wide as she took in the scene. Lillian was cornered. Her face, which a moment ago had been a portrait of smug satisfaction, was now pale and blotchy with panic. "It was an accident," she pleaded, her voice cracking. The candle but tipped over. "It was a terrible, terrible accident." An accident. Chlu's voice was dripping with venom. She threw the empty extinguisher onto the floor with a loud clang. "I saw you, you venomous witch. We all saw you. The whole world is seeing you right now." She gestured wildly at my phone, which was still broadcasting Lillian's pathetic lies to an ever-growing audience. The viewer count on the live stream had skyrocketed. The original 30 guests had shared the link, and now it was climbing into the hundreds, then thousands. My wedding day disaster was going viral in real time. Lillian's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal, looking for an escape, an excuse, anything, but there was none. The evidence was all around her, the lighter on the floor, the flask, the chemical smell, the blackened corpse of my dress, and then a new voice cut through the chaos, a voice thick with rage. "Mother." Nathan stood in the doorway. He was in his tuxedo, his hair perfectly styled, his face pale with shock. He must have been on his way for the first look photos. His eyes swept the room. The smoke, the extinguisher foam, my ruined dress, my stoic face, before finally landing on his mother. Someone in the hallway had obviously shown him the live stream on their phone. He already knew. The look in his eyes was something I'd never seen before. It wasn't just anger. It was a profound, soul-deep disappointment. It was the look of a man seeing his mother for who she truly was for the very first time. "Nathan, darling," Lillian began, her voice taking on a wheedling tone. "There's been a misunderstanding. This girl, she's hysterical. She set her own dress on fire for attention. It was such a ludicrous, desperate lie that I almost laughed." Nathan just stared at her, his jaw working silently. He walked slowly, deliberately past her. He didn't even give her a second glance. He walked straight to me, his eyes searching mine, filled with a pain that mirrored my own. "M," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, a single tear finally escaping and tracing a path through the light dusting of soot that had settled on my cheek. "No, I'm okay." He reached out and gently cupped my face, his thumb wiping away the tear. He looked down at the charred remains of the dress he knew I'd poured my soul into, the dress that held the last piece of my mother. A muscle in his jaw clenched so hard I could see it from inches away. He turned his head slowly, his gaze falling upon Lillian with the weight of an executioner's sentence. What did you do? He asked, his voice deceptively quiet, a low growl that was more terrifying than any shout. I did it for you, Nathan, she cried, her composure shattering completely. She's not one of us. She's a gold-digging nobody. I was protecting our family. Our family. Nathan's laugh was a harsh, bitter sound. You were protecting your own bigotry, your own prejudice. You are not our family. She? He said, turning back to me and pulling me against his chest. She is my family. And you just declared war on her. He held me tight, and for the first time since the flame touched the silk, I let myself feel the shudder of shock run through me. I buried my face in his chest, breathing in the familiar, comforting scent of him. But the drama was not yet over. A new figure appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. It was Henry Brooks, Nathan's father. He was a kind, quiet man with gentle eyes, a man who had always treated me with warmth and respect, a stark contrast to his wife. He took in the scene with a heavy sigh, his gaze lingering on Lillian with an expression of profound, weary sadness. Lillian, he said, his voice with a disappointment that was somehow more damning than Nathan's rage. What have you done? Lillian seemed to shrink under his gaze. Henry Egg. He held up a hand, silencing her. He walked over to the vanity, picked up my phone, and looked at the screen, at the thousands of viewers and the waterfall of comments condemning his wife. He didn't turn it off. Instead, he angled it slightly so it captured his own face, clear and resolute. To everyone watching, he said, his voice firm and carrying the authority of a man used to being listened to. My name is Henry Brooks. On behalf of the Brooks family, I want to offer our deepest, most sincere apologies to Emily. What my wife has done is unforgivable. It is a monstrous act born of a cruelty I cannot comprehend. He then turned his gaze from the camera and looked directly at Lillian. The entire world was now watching this intimate family reckoning. You have brought shame upon this family, Lillian. You have hurt the woman my son loves, a woman who is 10 times the person you'll ever be. Emily is everything a Brooks should be. She is strong. She is brilliant. She is kind, and she has built a life for herself through sheer will and integrity. Everything you claim to value, she embodies. And you, in your jealousy and your pathetic snobbery, try to tear her down. He paused, his words hanging in the smoky air. We are done? You and I, this is the end. Lillian let out a strangled sob, a sound of utter defeat. She had lost everything in a single, fiery act of hatred. Her son, her husband, her reputation, all of it up in smoke. Henry looked back at me, his eyes softening. Emily, my dear girl, I am so sorry. Whatever you need, whatever we can do to fix this, just say the word. And that's when it hit me. An idea, a crazy, impossible, brilliant idea. The fire hadn't just destroyed something. It had created something, an opportunity. A chance to not just survive this, but to triumph over it. My head snapped up from Nathan's chest. A real smile, the first one in what felt like an eternity, touched my lips. Actually, Mr. Brooks, I said, my voice gaining strength with every word. I think I have a plan. Let's call it Plan Phoenix. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the distant sound of wedding guests murmuring outside, all of them watching the drama unfold on their phones. Nathan and Henry looked at me, their expressions a mixture of confusion and hope. Clue just grinned, a flicker of her usual fire returning to her eyes. Okay, Phoenix, Chloe said, crossing her arms. What's the plan? My mind was racing, connecting dots, pulling a lifeline out of the chaos. A few months ago, I did a pro bono branding project for a new bridal boutique downtown, Serendipity Bridal. In exchange, the owner, Maria, let me borrow a few dresses for a styled photo shoot I was art directing. There was a sample dress. It was stunning, a bit more modern than my own, but it was beautiful. It was an off-the-shoulder A-line, simple, elegant. I could see it perfectly in my mind's eye. It might even be my size. Henry's eyes lit up with understanding. I want to get that dress. I want to get that dress. I confirmed, my voice ringing with newfound purpose. The despair was gone, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. Lillian wanted to see me broken and crying in the ashes. I was going to give her a bride rising from them. The shops closed on Saturdays, Nathan said, a practical wrinkle in his brow. And the wedding is supposed to start in 45 minutes. Leave that to me, Henry said, already pulling out his phone. His quiet demeanor transformed into one of efficient command. He wasn't just a kind man. He was a powerful one. I know Maria's husband. We play golf together. I'll have her opening that shop in 5 minutes. He turned to my bridesmaids. Girls, what are your tasks? Chloe immediately took charge. Sarah, you're on crowd control. Go down there, keep the guests calm. Tell them the bride is fashionably late due to a wardrobe evolution. Megan, you're with me. We need to clean Emily up. We need makeup. We need hairspray. We need to get this suit off her. They sprang into action, a whirlwind of supportive energy, as Clue and Megan started gently dabbing my face with makeup remover wipes. Henry spoke into his phone, his voice a calm but unyielding force. John, it's Henry Brooks. I have an emergency. Yes, a good one, I hope. I need your wife to open her store for me right now. It's for my new daughter. He pausing. Thank you. We're sending someone now. He hung up and looked at Nathan. Son, your best man, Mark. Is he a fast driver? Nathan nodded. The fastest. Good. Get him the address. Tell him to break speed limits if he has to. I'll cover the tickets. The bridal suite, a scene of destruction just minutes before, was now a bustling command center. The live stream was still running. I'd propped the phone back up, and now the world was watching not my breakdown, but my comeback. The chat was a blur of support. Agafanixco, we believe in you, Emily. This is the most incredible wedding story ever. Lillian Brooks is canceled. Lillian herself was a ghost in the corner of the room. 2 of the venue security guards had arrived, standing quietly by the door. She wasn't being detained. Not yet, but she wasn't going anywhere either. She just sat in a chair, shrunken and gray, watching us rebuild the day she so spectacularly failed to destroy. As Mark sped off towards downtown Asheville, Chloe worked her magic. She expertly repaired my makeup, concealing the tear tracks and the faint smudges of soot. She repinned my hair, her movements quick and certain. I had taken off the top part of my ruined dress and was standing in my slip. The bottom half, a sad, blackened pile, had been swept into a corner. 20 agonizingly long minutes later, Nathan's phone buzzed. It was Mark. He's got the dress, Nathan announced, a wave of relief washing over the room. He's on his way back. Henry was coordinating with the wedding planner over the phone. Yes, delay the music for another 15 minutes. Push the cocktail hour up. Tell the kidders to start passing hors d'oeuvres. And set up a large screen near the ceremony arch. I want the live stream projected onto it for everyone to see when she walks down that aisle. Let them see the whole journey. It was a stroke of genius. Our guests wouldn't just see a bride in a new dress. They would see the story behind it. They would see the fire, the tears, the teamwork, and the triumph. When Mark arrived, breathless and holding a garment bag like it was a holy relic, the room erupted in a quiet cheer. Clue unzipped it, and there it was. The Phoenix dress, it was even more beautiful than I remembered. Crafted from a luminous Mikado silk, its clean lines and elegant silhouette were the complete opposite of the romantic lace of my first dress. It wasn't a replacement. It was a reincarnation. As I slipped it on, it felt like armor. It fit almost perfectly, just a little loose in the waist. Megan, who always carried a miniature sewing kit, was already on her knees, putting a few quick X-spurches in the side seams to cinch it in. I looked at my reflection one last time. The woman staring back wasn't the same one from an hour ago. The soft, joyful glow was gone, replaced by a fierce, radiant light. My eyes held a new kind of fire. I wasn't just a bride. I was a survivor. I was a phoenix. Nathan came and stood behind me, his hands on my shoulders. We met each other's gaze in the mirror. You. He said, his voice thick with emotion, "We're the strongest person I have ever known. I have never been more proud to call you my wife than I am in this moment." I leaned back against him, my heart so full I thought it might burst. "Ready to go get married?" "More than ready," he said, kissing the top of my head. Henry cleared his throat. "It's time." He offered me his arm. Traditionally, he would be walking me down the aisle, filling in for the father I never really had. But now it meant so much more. He wasn't just giving me away. He was claiming me. He was publicly choosing me over his own wife. As we walked out of the suite, we passed Lillian. She looked up, her face a ravaged landscape of regret. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't offer her scorn or anger. I just gave her a small, sad nod. She hadn't broken me. She had, in a strange and twisted way, made me stronger. The walk to the ceremony was surreal. Guests who had been watching the live stream from the garden and the lodge's great room now lined the hallway. Their phones put away. They didn't whisper or stare. They applauded. A soft, respectful ripple of applause followed us all the way to the grand entrance. They weren't just clapping for a bride. They were cheering for a victory. As we reached the back of the aisle, the wedding music finally began to play. And on the large screen Henry had ordered, the live stream was playing on a loop, a condensed version showing the ugly confrontation and then the beautiful, chaotic, collaborative effort of our friends and family. It showed me standing strong in the face of it all. Henry squeezed my arm. "Are you ready, my dear?" "I am," I said, my voice clear and steady. And together we walked out into the sunshine, down an aisle lined with our cheering, crying friends and family towards the man I loved. As I walked, I felt the spirit of my mother with me, not in the lace over my heart, in the strength in my spine. The fire had taken my dress, but it had given me a new story to tell. And it was a story of a love so strong, it could rise from any ashes. The ceremony was a beautiful blur. The officiant, a wonderful woman who had been kept apprised of the situation, altered her opening remarks. "We are gathered here today." She began, her voice resonating with warmth, not just to witness the union of two people in marriage, but to celebrate the incredible power of love to overcome adversity. We have all, in one way or another, just witnessed a trial by fire. And what has emerged is something stronger, purer, and more resilient. This is not just a wedding. It is a testament. When it came time for our vows, the words I had written seemed insufficient. I put the paper down. Nathan did the same. We spoke from the heart. He went first, his voice thick but steady, his eyes never leaving mine. "Emily, I thought I knew what was. I thought it was laughter and shared dreams and quiet moments. And it is. But today, I learned that love is also a firestorm. It's watching the person you cherish face the ugliest parts of the world and not flinch. It's seeing her strength and her grace in the face of unimaginable cruelty. You are my home, my anchor, and my inspiration. They say that what is broken is stronger in the mended places. Today, my heart broke for you, But seeing you rise up, you have mended my soul. I vow to spend the rest of my life being the man you deserve, to be your shield, your partner, and your fiercest champion. I love you. Tears were streaming down my face now, but they were tears of overwhelming love and gratitude. It was my turn. Nathan, I began, my voice trembling slightly before finding its strength. I came here today with a dress that I thought held all of my history. It had a piece of my mother in it, and I thought that was how I would carry her with me. I was wrong. I glanced out at the supportive faces of our guests. My mother is here today in my resilience, in my refusal to be broken. That's what she taught me. You, Nathan, you didn't try to save me. You stood beside me and trusted me to save myself. You saw the fire and you weren't afraid of my flames. You honored my strength. I vow to honor yours, to build a life with you that is not defined by the ashes of our past, but by the fire we create together. I love you forever. When we were pronounced husband and wife, the cheer from our guests was deafening. It was a cry of joy, of relief, of collective triumph. The reception was unlike any I'd ever been to. The atmosphere was electric. The disaster hadn't cast a pall over the celebration. It had infused it with a profound sense of meaning. Every toast, every dance, every conversation was tinged with the knowledge of what we had overcome. Chloe, ever the creative force, had already been at work. During the ceremony, she had created a custom Snapchat filter, a stylized golden phoenix rising from flames. She'd also coined a hashtag, Asheville Phoenix. Within an hour, it was trending locally. By the end of the night, it would be trending nationally. Our first dance was to a slow, beautiful song, and as Nathan held me, swaying to the music, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We were in our own little bubble, the chows of the day fading into a soft, blurry background. I'm sorry, M, he whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry for what she did. Don't be, I whispered back. She gave us a better story, a story about us. Not all of the guests had stayed. A handful of Lillian's friends, the ones who shared her frosty demeanor and outed views on social standing, had slipped away quietly after the ceremony. Their absence was a cleansing. The people who remained were our people. They were the ones who saw what happened and chose to celebrate love over hate. Henry found me later as I was watching my friends laugh on the dance floor. He was holding 2 glasses of champagne. A toast, he said, handing one to me. To the best daughter-in-law a man could ever ask for. Thank you, Henry, for everything. You didn't have to stand up to her like that, especially not so publicly. He shook his head, a grim set to his jaw. Yes, I did. Evil thrives in silence. What she did was evil. For years, I've made excuses for her. She's from a different time. She's just protective. I enabled her. Today, that ended. The world needed to see her for what she is. He took a sip of champagne. She's no longer at the venue. I had security escort her to a car. She'll be staying at her sister's. I can't even look at her right now. The party continued late into the night, a joyous, defiant celebration of life and love. We cut the cake, we laughed at the toasts, and we danced until our feet ached. We were no longer a bride and groom who had suffered a catastrophe. We were the Asheville Phoenixes, and this was our victory party. The week that followed was a whirlwind. Our wedding story, complete with clips from the live stream, was everywhere. It was on local news, then national morning shows, then blogs and websites all over the world. We were inundated with messages of support from strangers. Women shared their own stories of toxic in-laws, of standing up to bullies, of finding strength in their darkest moments. We had accidentally become a symbol for something much bigger than ourselves. We turned down all interview requests, wanting to keep the heart of our story for ourselves. But we were moved by the outpouring, by the realization that our private pain had resonated so publicly. About a week after the wedding, Henry called a family meeting. It was just the four of you, me, Nathan, Henry, and a subdued, visibly broken Lillian, who had been summoned back to the family home. We sat in Henry's formal study, a room filled with law books and pictures of a happier family. Lillian wouldn't look at me. She stared at her hands, which were twisting a handkerchief in her lap. Henry was direct. "Lillian, you have two paths forward," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Path one, you refuse to get help. You continue on this bitter, hateful road you've chosen. If you choose that path, you will do it alone. I will file for divorce. You will be cut off from this family and its resources. You will not have a relationship with your son or with any future grandchildren." Lillian flinched as if struck. "Path two," he continued. "You admit that you have a problem, a deep-seated sickness of prejudice and cruelty. You will enter intensive, long-term psychological counseling. You will work to understand why you did what you did, and you will commit to becoming a better person. It is the only way you have any chance of salvaging a relationship with your son, and the only way you will ever have one with me again. The choice is yours." Lillian was silent for a long time, the only sound the frantic twisting of the handkerchief. Finally, she looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and filled with a despair I almost pitied. "I'll go to counseling," she whispered. It wasn't a victory, not really. It was a sad, necessary step on a long, uncertain road. In the following weeks, the Brooks family, led by Henry, made another public statement. They announced the formation of a new charitable initiative funded by the Family Foundation. They called it Phoenix Grant. It was a program designed to provide financial aid to women leaving abusive or toxic family situations, helping them get back on their feet, start businesses, or continue their education. It was Henry's way of turning our story into a lasting force for good. 3 months passed. Lillian started her therapy. From what Nathan heard through his father, it was difficult. She was resistant at first, but slowly she was beginning to confront her demons. We kept our distance, knowing that true change, if it was to come at all, would take time. One sunny afternoon, Nathan and I drove back up to Mountain Haven. We stood at the ceremony site, looking out at the endless green waves of the Blue Ridge Mountains. My life was so different now. I was a wife. I was part of a story that had inspired people. I was stronger, more sure of myself than ever before. Nathan wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. "About fire," I said, leaning back into his embrace. "How strange it is, how it can destroy everything in its path, but it can also forge something new, something stronger." He kissed my temple. Like us, I agreed. The fire was meant to be my end, the fiery culmination of Lillian's hatred. But she had failed to understand the nature of love, of resilience, and of the woman her son had chosen. You can't burn what is already forged in its own fire. All you do is make it glow brighter for the whole world to see.